Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Event Industry News podcast. My name is James Dixon, and as always, I wish you a very good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening, wherever and whenever you join today's podcast from. I'm in a new podcast studio again. I seem to be doing a lot of moving at the moment for various different reasons, but it's nice. Yeah, I've got a nice little setting here. I've got my water, my laptops, and more importantly, a guest on the end of the line today. Joining us today is the CEO of TBA Group. TBA Group, TBA PLC, of course, one of the leading agencies and group of companies working in the live event and brand event sector. Guy Horner is the CEO and joins the Event Industry News podcast today. Guy, a very good morning to you.
Hi, James. Morning to you too.
Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. Really, because I know how busy the group is at the moment and how much activity has been going on. Before we get into sort of some of the subject matter of today, and we want to look at how, you know, the last 10 months have shaped your group of businesses and all the various different activities that you undertake. But a recent bit of news, if we can open with that, is the acquisition of Top Banana, the marketing agency Top Banana, into the TBA Group of companies. That's a significant development just in the last few weeks. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? Regular viewers of our podcast will, of course, know that Top Banana were actually a guest on the podcast just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really excited about the acquisition and joining of Top Banana into the TBA Group and into specifically our brands division. We've got three specialist areas within TBA Group: the sports side of the business, working with brands, and the entertainment side of the business. And Top Banana is a natural fit for us, shared common vision, great bunch of people, and doing some amazing work, very much virtually over the last 12 months, but really trailblazing in that space. So it's something that we're all excited about and puts us on the front foot moving out of this pandemic.
Sure, and it's as a group, it's quite obvious. I mean, just from going onto the TBA PLC website, that with this group of companies that you've got within the TBA umbrella, there is quite clearly a defined line between what each one does. Each company has retained their own brand. Each company has a very, very specific focus and ethos as to what they offer. How long had you been looking to actually add to that particular collective element? And Top Banana clearly brought something to the table that maybe some of the other elements of the group were not necessarily lacking, but that Top Banana could actually embellish upon.
Yeah, I think specifically our brands and customers are looking for specialists. They're looking for partners and teams who really, really understand that area and can help them solve their business problems and challenges. And in Top Banana's case, they've got amazing track records in terms of strategic comms, staff engagement, internal comms, content, film, digital, and that further adds to our stable and expertise, where we've got fantastic automotive expertise, production expertise, B2C consumer facing engagement expertise. So Top Banana within the brands division adds definitely another string to our bow. And I think, as you know, things are changing so quickly, you need to be forward looking. You need to be fit for the future. And I think the skills and services that the Top Banana guys and girls bring and contribute just further add to the TBA brands division offer for our clients.
Yeah, and I suppose in one respect it adds to the length of journey that you can offer your clients in terms of that experience, you know, that journey from concept to delivery, and then post-event feedback. You know, you can really extend that even further by offering that wider range of services within the single group.
Yeah, and I've always thought we're in a privileged position in the events industry, where we really get to understand brands and clients, whether they're talking to consumers and engaging with consumers, or they're talking to internal audiences. But it's a privileged position, and you know, you have clients' trust and faith and commitment in you as an agency to deliver. So it seems helpful as well when we're working with clients to be able to help solve other problems. If you're talking internally to staff and colleagues, or you're talking externally and engaging the media or fans or customers, that we can really apply specialist knowledge and experience across those areas.
Absolutely. Well, one thing that we'd like to turn our attention to today, particularly on the podcast, is this changing landscape of brand experiences. Something that I know as a group you're heavily involved in is virtual launches, and with the level of clients and the level of brands that you're involved with, they are on a continually moving train of productivity in terms of launching, whether it be a physical product or a concept, a new brand, and for them, despite the challenges that the last 12 months has posed and given everybody to face, they've had to continue moving on that train, haven't they? When it comes to delivering their brand experiences, they had to shift very quickly and very dramatically. When it comes to things like virtual launches, for example, how has that changed as a landscape in the last 12 months in terms of how you've worked with your clients on bringing new brands to market?
Well, one of the good things out of this pandemic has been the vast progression in terms of embracing virtual, digital, and online world and online meetings. We've all benefited from that. But I do think it's been a real challenge for brands and our customers and corporate clients to get their heads around virtual and what they need to do and how to do it well. They're bombarded with platforms and lots of different ideas and potential solutions, and quite rightly, the industry has done a great job in pivoting towards online content and virtual, creating experiences online. But it's really confusing for a client to know where to start, what platform to use, and we have a process tool, A to B, that we use that really unpacks key areas and milestones along the way, so clients can navigate that and choose the right solutions, because there are so many, and it's different for who different audience, who you're trying to communicate to, what the message is, what you want to say, how much interaction and engagement you want. Is it media and press, and you need a platform and a closed area, or is it an open Q&A on social media? So unpacking what really clients want is super important, and then giving them the right solution. There's great basic tools now that everybody can jump on Zoom and Teams.
Indeed, yeah.
But when you're trying to create a really immersive, engaging experience that really represents the brand, there's so much more you can do. And we now have our own in-house virtual studio and edit suites, which sits with the top banana guys. So we're continually building our expertise in that area, because it's here to stay, and it's super powerful. And actually, the reach it gives is brilliant for the industry. To be able to reach that many, to coin not a great phrase, reach that many eyeballs, and to actually extend the footprint of events. It makes events far more valuable. So as an industry, we should see it as a massive gift and a massive step up in terms of live and brand experience status in the marketing mix, and the reach you can now get from that.
When, in some respects, the industry was forced, when this all happened exactly 12 months ago. We're recording this on the 24th of March, so we are literally 1 year on from that first lockdown. In one respect, the entire industry's hand was forced. Live events were cancelled, so you had no choice but to go virtual. Once you'd taken that step, in some respects, the decisions that had to be made then on how and what platforms to use, etc., are even more complicated than delivering live events, because of all these different platforms, because of the different demographics that use certain platforms, and identifying perhaps which ones suit the brand that you're working with best. How difficult a challenge was it to identify on a project by project basis how to actually shape and what platforms to use, and how much input did you take from the clients as to what they knew that their customers used to access their content?
We took the decision not to jump into the arms race and create another platform and claim that it was unique and different to everything else. But there's some amazing platforms and technology out there that you can customize and bespoke to the needs. More than the platform, we find it's about the storytelling, the messaging, the content. Creating some amazing launch animations and experiences that really draw the user in, because you've got people looking at screens a lot and screen fatigue, and how do you really make it exciting to keep people enthralled and entertained at the end of the day. So very much our focus is on the creative, the storytelling, and then using the right tools and technology, rather than trying to compete with some huge, multinational businesses and great platform providers. And there's some great platforms out there, but I think a lot of brands have got lost early days going, what platform do I need, rather than actually, who am I talking to? What do I need to say, and how do I really engage them?
Absolutely, and that brings us to a perfect segue to something that I noticed on LinkedIn, on the TBA Group LinkedIn just a couple of days ago, a post that you guys put up there. Content is king, and 3 really clear points and questions. Is it compelling? Is it captivating? Is it shareable? They Absolutely. Are really the top 3 headlines, aren't they, when it comes to exactly what you've just been talking about?
Yeah, and the expectation is online now, and social. There's so much content, user-generated content, great professionally cut content, that there's a certain level of expectation and experience required now. So that getting that right and making it really captivating and compelling is a real challenge for virtual. Not to mention the hybrid world that I'm sure you'll come on to, that we're going to get involved in, where you've got to juggle that balance as well.
Well, indeed, and hybrid is definitely something we'll touch on, because it's a question I've already asked on recent editions of the podcast. Is we've learned, I feel we've compressed 10 years of learning into the last 12 months, and we now have so many more strings to our bow when live comes back. So we'll come to that in a bit. But something I wanted to ask when it comes to generating content and relating to compelling and captivating and shareable, is you mentioned screen fatigue, and people have spent the last 12 months more than ever on screens. We've been in lockdown, we're on our phones, we're on our tablets, we're on Netflix. Has the length of content had to be altered significantly? There's so much video content available now on any social media platform particularly. Have you worked with clients to really identify what appropriate lengths of content work in the modern environment, when you bear in mind that people may be suffering from screen fatigue and they may only watch something for a matter of seconds?
Yeah, and that's a real challenge. The shorter the better, really. We all know that 2 minutes feels like 5 minutes when you're watching, and it's got to be long enough to land the messages, and if there's interaction or if there's breakouts or different rooms to explore. But short, snappy, compelling is really important. There is a real tendency, some brands and clients, you see it a lot, where they've got this lovely content, perhaps it's already been seen and out there, it goes in again. Or a 30-minute program turns into a 90-minute program, which is too long to expect an audience to sit and watch. So it's the obligation of the brand and the producers to make sure that it is it's exciting, compelling, lands the messages, and leaves the audience wanting more. I think that the other great thing about creating content virtually for virtual events is it gives you a whole suite of assets to use and to chop up into bite-sized chunks and reuse and distribute. It's also worth remembering that when you look at actually the live audience, when we've done live launches and live shows, the live audience, you might get 20,000-30,000 people live as an example. Yeah. But within 24 hours, you'll have a couple of million views of that content. So you've got to think about live, but also about how that content is then digested and enjoyed and engaged with past that live moment, and that's happened recently. You look at a lot of the Formula One launches, and far more fans engaged over the following 24 hours
Indeed,
than
yeah.
actually at 3 o'clock on a midweek afternoon when maybe you're busy with your own work priorities.
Absolutely, and you've only got to look at the way that consumers digest and watch television now. You see, the proliferation of Netflix. You look at BBC, and they're as concerned about their iPlayer, ratings and watches, beyond the actual live broadcast as they are the actual people who've tuned in with the live broadcast itself. And that's a prime example of how the events industry, I suppose, has had to completely sort of shift how it thinks about something, because when we're delivering live events, it's about the people who are there. It's about the bodies who are in that room or in that venue or in that particular environment if it's open air. And now, as you quite rightly point out, it's not just about that broadcast or that live event that you're putting on virtually via a digital platform, but because it's there, until the end of time, essentially, once it goes out there, you've got to consider how many people will actually watch that and access that content, and how relevant it retains itself beyond the live broadcast.
We were really just talking about Netflix. We were really pleased to see we created MK7 Red Bull Racing's fan experience, and I think the new series of Netflix, Drive to Survive,
Yeah.
Formula One, was set in the studio we created, which is obviously pre-COVID, and we didn't expect to be a perfect backdrop for that setting. But the amount of content now that you can access on things like Netflix, means there is a demand for quality and exciting content that needs to be more than PowerPoint slides and just simple pieces to camera.
Well, exactly. You mentioned hybrid, and quite rightly point out that we need to talk about that. And I, as I said, think that we've learned so much in the last 12 months. We've compressed an awful lot of learning, and I think there is an awful lot of good to come out of the last year in terms of what we can now deliver as an industry, in terms of how we understand our audiences and how we found new ways to access them and keep content being delivered to them. How much of what we've had to do in the last 12 months will we choose to do once live comes back?
It's a great question, and it's a real challenge for brands, and our clients and customers are wrestling with that at the moment. In a way, it's harder going back than going forwards, and I don't think there is a way back. Everybody had to embrace virtual and use virtual. With hybrid, it's the future. Of course, customers and brands are going to want to go back to face to face, where it really works, and that will come back. But they're not going to want to lose virtual and that broader audience and reach, and return on investment that gives. So you're then really looking at which audience do you prioritize. We all know you go to a TV studio for a TV show, and it's a different experience to the experience that you get shiny floor on TV. Not necessarily a worse experience, just a different experience. And I think you've got to look at the two, look at the audiences and the messaging you're trying to communicate with, and decide what those experiences are. Is it all about the virtual audience, or is it live in the room? What you don't want is just a feed and a stream of a live event. We've been there pre-COVID and a few years back, and it was always a bit like the proliferation. Whereas now I think it's far more integrated. Hybrid is the buzzword, but moving forward, it's going to be integrated in terms of you've got two different distinct audiences, and it's got to be exciting. It's got to be exciting for both, and it can be, but it's another challenge for our customers and brands to get their head around how best to deal with that.
And again, what you've just spoken about there is another example, in my opinion, of of how we've been forced down this route, but how there's a lot of good to come from it, because as you rightly said, when we first started doing live streaming at live events, let's expand our audience by, allowing people who are not at the physical event to still tune in, and they basically could go on YouTube, onto Vimeo or something, and just click a live stream and watch something that was fairly static and boring. We've been forced to develop this online content, which is brilliant. And I think what we do need to appreciate now, and what I'd like to ask you is that some audiences may not want to come back. As much as we hear about audiences saying we can't wait to get back to festivals and to gigs and to live events, and I've also spoken to a lot of friends and family who've said that they will wait a considerably longer length of time before they feel comfortable going back in. And I think that's something that we have to acknowledge and appreciate as an events industry, is that a percentage of our audience may not want to come back, so we have to retain that virtual element and do it well.
Yeah, I think from the way we're seeing it within the TBA group is there's two distinct different approaches. Consumer, huge pent up demand. We see that in the entertainment division, some of the concerts and shows we're doing. Real consumer appetite to get back into stadiums, to concerts, into bars, restaurants, hospitality. But then the corporate side of things, there's the responsibility of the corporate clients. Are they creating a safe event? They don't want to endanger staff. Do they need to fly staff around the world to an event if they can do it virtually and more efficiently and in a more sustainable way? So it's throwing up choices for them as well. It creates a great opportunity, and it's really exciting to see how much of the events industry have embraced virtual, because it really can move us forward into a much more strategic, important place in terms of experiences and the marketing mix. But I think what consumers are going to want to be doing from June onwards, restrictions permitting, and where corporates are two different timescales.
And you raise another very good point there about the working from home scenario. We hear an awful lot about companies who are abandoning their office spaces now. They've had 12 months of their staff working from home, realise that they can be as productive, realise that they can remove that cost of a physical building and an office space to work in, which helps them as a business from an economic point of view. And if you've got that scenario now where in certain business sectors a lot of people are working from home, then they will now naturally follow that on by saying, well, do we need to fly them to that event? Do we need 5 days in a hotel, for 15 members of staff for that conference? The conference themselves, the organisers themselves will no doubt be asking very, very similar questions. How much contact have you had with that sort of that corporate event world? And have you been able to speak to any of them to really sort of get a feel for how working from home will then affect their decision making when it comes to events and conferences?
Yeah, there's some really interesting stats actually that we found in terms of audience demographics who are engaging with virtual events, and where you're getting people spending longer in virtual events, and just different age groups and genders that are more likely to be involved in a virtual event than a live event. From what we're saying, what we're seeing with our clients is real confidence after the summer, with bookings and events being planned, and a lot of activity towards the end of the year. Question mark over internationally, because obviously we know that the current challenges in Europe who are a bit behind us, but it feels like the guinea pigs are going to be the consumer events over the summer. See how those run. We could be up to 30,000-40,000 people for Euros and other events over the summer, and concerts, and then that obviously gives a lot of confidence in terms of more of the corporate stuff coming back. And it does come down, doesn't it, to confidence, and as things unlock, corporate clients and brands feeling able and prepared to commit, and to want to create create hybrid experiences to engage with those audiences, because it's we've all had a lot of stop start. So quite rightly, some brands have just said no. Let's wait. Let's be cautious. And when we go, we'll really we'll go with determination and clarity, because it has been an incredibly tricky, volatile 12 months.
It has, and I mean that volatility and that trickiness that's come. We've had staff, freelancers, technicians, skilled people who've essentially been sat on the sidelines for 12 months, and who are now, going to be thrown back into the thick of things, once restrictions ease, and particularly once we get to the summer, when, if the roadmap is to be understood, we will be allowed to do things on a more normal level. What strikes me is that, having been sort of not abandoned, but with this really sort of tricky black hole of a 12-month period for a lot of the workers in the industry, is that the events industry itself now is almost going to take on a responsibility for rebuilding public confidence in being in crowded spaces, in being in environments with other people. An awful lot of focus will be on how well these early events are delivered, and how much sort of there are comeback there is on them. And I really think that if they can be delivered safely, and if the right messages can get put out there in the press and in the media about how well they were delivered, we've got this great opportunity as an industry now to actually assist with the rebuilding of public confidence in being in grouped environments.
It is. It's confidence, isn't it? And I think that's going to move quickly as events come back, and hopefully as we see things are under control and are managed. That confidence will come back, and things will start to move more quickly, and we need to be we need to be ready. I think the industry's never had a bigger opportunity. Change always creates opportunity. It's been incredibly tough. I know, for us as a group, like everybody else, it's been tough, but it presents opportunity. And I think if you look forward strategically into what brands and clients need, there's a really exciting runway. You've only got to look at sport in Europe over the next 3 or 4 years. It's massive.
Yeah. Of course it is, yeah. I wouldn't mind maybe touching on the sort of the technical side of things. I mentioned that a lot of the technical, the engineering aspect of the live events industry has basically been on standby now for 12 months. Are you in a position now where, from a planning point of view, you can see where and when and how you can actually deliver the live experience again, and you're able to now sort of start bringing people back into the mix, and presumably you've now got a lot of stuff in your own schedule now for August, September and onwards?
Yeah, we're doing our first live event of the year next week out in Saudi with Extreme E. So amazing new racing series.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen the publicity for it. It looks absolutely spectacular.
So we're Extreme E's live event partner, and we're creating some experiences out in Saudi in the desert. I've got a team on the ground out there, so it's awesome to be back physically delivering things, as well as a lot of the virtual events across the group that we've got happening today and next week and onwards. But yeah, I guess really from sort of June, July onwards, with Euros, hopefully, etc. There's a clear stream of work, and then looking into the autumn, it feels generally that people are getting busier. A lot of the venues as well are experiencing a real uptick in terms of interest and inquiries and bookings. So I think we all just need to sort of hold on to the seat of our pants and hope that we don't get any more bumps in the road, as Boris would say.
Well, talking about seat of your pants and bumps in the road, the Extreme E series that you mentioned there, for anybody who hasn't seen it, I would urge you to just hop on your nearest device and Google Extreme E and have a look at what this is about. And you've piqued my interest there, because maybe that's something we can talk about in the future, Guy, because I know that one of the ethos behind Extreme E is the locations, and the whole delivery of it is very much and eco-friendly. It's looking at carbon footprint. It's looking at the impact on the planet. Some of the locations that have been selected for races are going to be extremely challenging from a logistical point of view, and from a delivery point of view, dare I say it, that the organisers and the chiefs behind Extreme E will want everything delivered in line with their ethos as a racing series. And it would be fantastic if you guys are interested to maybe look at that in a few months' time and do a special episode of the podcast looking at how that particular element was delivered with your own work.
Yeah, very, very happy to do that. We've been working with the guys at Extreme E since the original St Helena boat launch at Tower Bridge a couple of years ago. And then obviously the virtual launch before Christmas, which went extremely well. And now to sort of get back to live. But yeah, it's a super exciting series. It's great to have male and female drivers racing together in the same cars. A really exciting electric format. With a huge sustainability focus, feels very, very current and very now. And we're lucky, we're lucky as a group to be involved in projects like that. And W Series, which is another amazing series that's competing on the same platform now as Formula One, really shining a light on female racing drivers and women in racing, which is going to be really exciting. So there's a whole world of sports projects that are bubbling away that we're really looking forward to the season ahead.
And more importantly, it's great to hear that you are actually getting back to delivering those live experiences, as productive. I think if we are to be positive about it, as productive as the last 12 months has been in our understanding and development of the virtual format, I think that everybody obviously wants to get back to doing those live events. There's going to be excitement and a buzz and an adrenaline rush about, you never see guys carrying trusses eagerly into events over the next few months. They will all be glad to pick up anything and run with it, quite literally.
No, we did Lapland, Silverstone had with Silverstone before Christmas, biggest event during COVID. There's 60,000 cars, a couple of 100,000 people went through that experience and created a whole amazing light show on the Formula One track. And all of the crew were so excited just to be out and, as you say, carrying a bit of truss, putting some moving lights out, doing the lasers. It was a fantastic success, but it was a real tonic for all of the teams and freelancers and our regular suppliers just to be out doing something.
Yeah, you don't know what you've got till it's gone, and thankfully now it's on its way back. So we look forward to it. We've been joined on the podcast today by Guy Horner. Guy is the CEO of TBA Group. If you want to find out a little bit more about what those guys are up to, tbaplc.co.uk is their website. And as I said, Instagram on LinkedIn. If you search for TBA PLC or TBA Group, I think it's TBA_group on Instagram. Go and check out what these guys are up to and find out a little bit about some of their history as well, because there's some fascinating history with this particular organisation, right the way back to the 60s and things like the launch of the original Mini. So, hop on there and take a look at what the guys are up to. Guy, thanks very much for joining us today. It's been great to have you. Great to have you on the podcast.
Nice to chat to you.
If you are listening to this on your favourite podcast platform, then head over to eventindustrynews.com to check out the latest features and news that's going on in the event industry and all the various different vertical strands. Some of the special supplements, the sustainability features that have been a key part of Event Industry News for the last couple of years. Now, of course, if you are watching this on the Event Industry News website already, then hop over to your favourite podcast download platform and tune in whilst you're out for your daily walk or on your commute to wherever you may be going in the next few months. Good luck to everybody out there. Hope everybody stays safe. We're on the road out of this and we can all see a bright light ahead. Guy Horner from TBA, it's been great to have you on the show and we'll see you on the next edition of the podcast.
Thank
Goodbye.
You.